Hello everybody and welcome back. Here we are back in this area here, and the party are gathering together to try and decide what they can do to get out of this. Well, plans have been afoot, and it's clear that they're going to have to get out of all of these chains, and the only person who can really help with that to begin with is Liz. She needs a lockpick, or she needs thieves' tools. A lockpick is actually two things. She sort of has to describe them to Carrick, who has secretively made some in the forge when he is meant to be making weapons, and he has brought the lockpicks back to the slaves' quarters here. And everybody gathers around to try and see what can be done. Unfortunately, because it requires two hands to pick a lock with a tool in each hand, it's almost impossible for Liz to use the hand that she's trying to pick the manacle of. She can obviously pick somebody else's using two hands, but that isn't optimal. So what she can do is she can borrow the services of Frida, who is the level 2 thief. Frida can at least hold one lockpick in place while Liz tries to manipulate the other one. And sure enough, she is able to open up her own manacles. But they have to be closed again and locked because, well, she can't arouse suspicion, but at least this is a start. The other question they have asked the prisoners, and they have answered, and is something that I should have answered, is how do you get up to here and to the rest of the stair? The rest of the stair is behind here. So if you want to climb up these stairs, you have to cross over the bridge and go up the back way. And also this ground has been drawn as slightly higher, and that probably will be important later. However, they still have to get all the prisoners out of here and find a way up if it isn't using these stairs. Of course, they talk about nothing else, and they're constantly looking for things to exploit. And one of the exploits is that the rock face here is clearly uneven, and there are places to go up this rock face where you can't really be seen from this area here. So you could be hidden mostly if you climb up here and even here. Now that does not help most of the party, and it certainly doesn't help 100 slaves. Also, even though Liz did have a rope of climbing, that rope has been taken, so it doesn't really facilitate a quick way up. And then they put their heads together and think how they could at least exploit it. And one idea they have come up with is that Liz could free herself from her manacles. She could then climb up here, and at every station or convenient point where there is a crack, she could hammer in an iron spike. At least that way they could quickly climb up and tie ropes to the spikes, drop them, and then as a team get up very quickly to the top. Of course, that puts a lot on Liz. Firstly, they have to get the iron spikes. Then she has to free herself from her manacles, which they've shown can be done. Then she has to climb up this wall and hammer them in. How do they think they can do that? Well, for start, Liz works in the kitchens with Malin. The kitchens are the least guarded of all the places because the skanks realise that everybody wants their food. The prisoners are not going to jeopardise the kitchen, so the kitchen is relatively safe. So there are opportunities for her to release herself, climb up this surface here, hammer in some iron spikes and climb down again. There is a lot of hammering going on in this place. There are several forges which are making weapons and armor, so the noise could be covered. This place is mostly dark. Some of these rock faces are angled to be out of sight. As a little dark figure climbing up this surface and hammering in spikes, it could be done. There are a couple of flat areas here where the party can gather should they try to make their way up this way. This still leaves a couple of problems. She has to not get caught. It's a risk. If she can hide in the shadows and hammer in spikes, that's a risk worth taking. Also, nobody is going anywhere for several days. She doesn't have to do this all in one nighttime or daytime. Remember, this is underground. There is no day or nighttime, but there is designated bedtimes. The point of all of that is because everybody is here for several days, she can do this over several days. Problems to be resolved are: one, they need rope. The other one is there's no way in any short space of time they're going to release 100 prisoners from their chains to make an escape. Either the prisoners all have to run in unison, or else they have to get hold of the keys and free them that way. They don't know how to get hold of the keys, but it's believed the keys are held here in the guardhouse. Another problem is that outside of this lava area and the previous chamber, there are several thousand steps of complete darkness. And you're not going to get 100 prisoners to go down these steps at speed and for somebody not to break their neck. And torches are limited. So what Donard is doing is he is memorizing continual light spell. He can cast 2 of those per day, and he is getting little pebbles, of which there are hundreds. Tybor, if you remember, is crushing up the rocks to help extract the iron ore, and he is feeding Donard pocketfuls of pebbles the size of a small egg. Donard is casting continual light on each of these and then hiding them under people's mattresses to hide the light. So when or if the escape happens, well, we don't know when the escape will happen, but these prisoners will at least have some light sources they can carry with them. And it also occurs to some that maybe if these creatures are sensitive to light, a load of continual light pebbles thrown at them might interfere with their eyesight, but that is a bit of a gamble. And the rope situation, well, that is something that they're going to have to work out with the kitchen and the forges, because a lot of the food which is eaten is animals, and the animals get skinned, and the animal skins go to the forges to be turned into leather. That's a process that takes several days. The people working the forges are going to have to start siphoning off a lot of leather that can be woven secretly into rope. That's the setup, and these are the kind of plans everybody discusses quietly at meal times. These are the ideas they're going to try and put into practice just to get something ready for an escape attempt. Let us check in on the crew, who we last saw here, and they just bumped into Mossy and Easton. Mossy is a halfling and Easton is a mage. Mossy is level 4, Easton is level 5. I did roll up some spells for Easton randomly using a d12 and the tables in the expert book, and he got these spells which he has memorized. Magic Missile, always good, though at his level it's just 1d6. Detect Magic, okay, well it is random. Web, which is a good one. ESP and Lightning Bolt, which, considering that they're in a small crevice making their way upward between boulders, Lightning Bolt in a confined space, probably not the best one. I also rolled a percentage dice to see if there was a chance he would have cast any. Remember, he doesn't have a spell book. Once these are gone, they're gone. And he had cast his ESP, which kind of makes sense considering you can reverse cast ESP to be a mind protection spell, and considering the sort of mind control which is going on, it seems logical he might have tried to cast that one. I did miscalculate Kane's melee thaco. I had it originally as 13, which should be 12. For level 6 fighter, it is naturally 17, and that drops by 5, 3 for his great 18 strength, and 2 for his weapon skill training, so his melee thaco is 12. He also has been injured in the last fight, and Barton has 2 cure light wounds, and I will roll for one of them. Okay, he's got 5 points back, he's back up to 41, and that will do in the meantime. The other thing which they switch up is Archie gives Easton the lamp. Easton takes it a bit confused, and the crew say, "But isn't that your job? Don't you stand at the back holding the lamp?" And Easton just shrugs and says, "Looks like it's my job at the minute." If you remember, Easton has just got a 4 dexterity, so his natural armor class of 9 is down to 11, so holding the lamp is really the most he can do, because I have attributed his low dex to the fact he has injured his back. So they are crawling through a very tight natural crevice. It's a cross between clambering over boulders and caving in those very narrow types of caves. Sometimes plate mail armor has to be removed, passed through the hole, and then people have to squeeze through. It is that tight in places and quite claustrophobic, and ultimately many times it's dark, because, well, the light has to be passed along because people are blocking the light by their bodies. This is quite a suffocating place, but it opens up into a slightly wider area where they can stand up and put their armour on. And it's a good thing they do put their armour on, because let's roll for surprise. And these enemies get surprise on a 1 to 4. And they do get surprise. After everybody gets kitted up and they get their swords, they step forward into this sort of long, narrow fissure. It has a flat-ish bottom, largely because over time rocks will have fallen and they will have naturally rolled into the bowl shape of the bottom and they will have filled it up. So you will get a kind of natural flatness made of fallen rocks, but it isn't that stable. And as they step forward, 2 crab spiders drop from the ceiling. They get a free attack. Barton and Kane were going first, so they are the targets. Let's see what the damage is. Another thing I forgot to mention is they did fill their water skins up at the fountain when you first enter, and that fountain had a lot of volcanic mineral content and it was known for good health. They have at least 2 water skins of that volcanic water. Let's see who gets attacked first, and I will do Kane as the red dice and Barton as the blue dice, and whoever rolls the lowest. Right, that's Barton, so this is the attack on him. Oh my god. Right, okay. These creatures have a THAC of 18, so that hits armor class 0. Barton's armor class is -1. Oh, nice one. Oh boy, okay, that was close. Right. So the attack on Kane. That's a miss as well. Good. Right. So let's roll for round number 1. Intentions. Mossy has a sling and some stones. Archie has his bow and arrow, and the 2 brothers, they're on melee. Easton is holding the lamp. Right, this is initiative. They get initiative. So it's that again. This is Barton's attack. That attack on him misses. The attack on Kane misses. I rolled the wrong damage dice, doesn't matter, they didn't get hit. There is no movement, so I will do Archie, who's got quite a good missile THAC of 14. Yes, oh, and look at that, and he does d6 damage. The one that is on Barton is knocked down to 1. Let's see what Mossy can do. She's on the one that's attacking Kane. Yes, and she does 2 damage, it's down to 8. That one's slightly larger. Mossy has skill with the sling, so her ranged THAC was 13, and she rolls a d6 rather than a d4. Right, let's do melee. Barton. Again, hits and cleans out that crab spider. And Kane. Right, his melee THAC was 12. He easily hits armor class 7 and he does 2d6 plus 4, so that's 6 plus 4 is 10, and he cleans out that crab spider. Well, this is a good place to rest up for a few moments and get our breath back, maybe eat something, and of course Mossy and Easton are really ravenous and, well, they're definitely glad of the rations. And yet again, the crew get attacked and handle their combat much more proficiently than the higher level, better equipped party. After a few days, the party are into a routine. Donard is making his little continual light pebbles that are being stashed under people's mattresses. Carrick is trying to make at least 1 or 2 iron spikes a day. And Liz has at least 1 hour of a window to climb this wall and to hammer that spike into a rock. She's trying to do this at the same time that most of the activity in this area is happening, so the noise doesn't carry. And she's using a wooden mallet again to make less noise than a metal hammer. Also, various prisoners are making strands of rope by taking little strips of leather which is being salvaged and plaiting it together, and all of this is being siphoned over this little footbridge by the people in the forges every time they go back. As a few days roll on, the beginnings of some kind of small escape plan for at least the party emerges. how on earth are they going to undo the manacles on all the prisoners? Because if there are 100 prisoners and each one has their hands and their feet tied, that's 200 separate locks, and it's not feasible to do that. Even over the span of one night, it wouldn't happen. What else is going on? One day up here, which is a part everybody can see, there's a small contingent of skanks who are dragging the carcass of a woolly mammoth down these stairs here. And there is obviously a bit of celebration on that, and it makes everyone realise how close they are to the final surface. And of course, it never occurred to everybody that to get food into this area, these skanks can actually go hunting above on the plateau surface and not just below on the island surface. So with the body of a mammoth, that's at least 2 days of food for everybody, so good picking on that. There'll be lots of skin on it, lots of hair to be woven into rope, so as long as the skanks get what they need, which is their food and any materials needed to make weapons and armour, the rest they are discarding as trash, and a whole little team of slaves have made it their mission to go through the trash and try and salvage anything they can and turn it into some kind of tool or a weapon. Again, the ultimate plan has not yet been realised. There was another parade day when all the prisoners got time off to be chained to their beds, whilst in this area here, all the skanks lined up with their weapons and armour. Those that have them, those that didn't, were counted. This is a way of keeping tally on the amount of equipment that is still needed to be made, and it's also a way of trying to get some kind of regimented training into these largely newly bred wild creatures. The one who's designated himself as the chief falls into line, so yes, he is clever enough not to stand out. And the evil party, what was interesting was for the first time looking up from below, they could see them here lined up looking at the parade. And when the parade was over, they went back into this fortress. So that is how life is continuing on at the minute. There obviously needs to be some kind of breakthrough, either from the point of view of the prisoners and the party, or some catalyst of change to make something bigger happen. And I think the catalyst for change, even though they don't know it yet, will be the crew. We're back with the crew, and they are in this little niche that offers them some kind of space to stand up, and it's big enough for them to lie down in. They're going to have to keep watch. When you consider how long they have been in these tunnels, it's time for bed. So, Barton has a Cure Light Wound spell for the day, and Kane is still on 41 out of 45, so we might as well cast it. Yep, and he's back up to full health. Let's see who is going to keep watch, and I will do 2 watches. I will do Barton and Archie and Kane and Mossy, and poor Easton will just have to rest up for the night. So if it's the blue dice, it's Barton on watch. If it's the red dice, it's Kane. And it's Barton on watch. Is there anything coming to attack them on a roll of a 1? There isn't, so they get to spend the rest of the night in this very cramped, suffocating place with stale air. Luckily, we then have our 5 cleric spells back again for today, so they will continue along this narrow passage. As they leave the little open area, the passage goes back into being cramped and narrow, with them struggling at times to push themselves between rocks and boulders. Eventually, the air becomes pretty rank, and Mossy says, "Oh, this is the smelly bit coming up." They keep pushing forward. The bad smell gets stronger, but eventually it opens up into a cavern. As horrible as the smell is, the ability to stand up again is more than a welcome relief. And in the lamplight, and it is Easton holding the lamp, they see this. It's a sort of marshy pool with thick green algae and very large bubbles poking out of it. There are 5 of them. And this is where the smell is coming from, so they have to put a hand up to their nose. And Easton says, "Well, on our way past here the first time, we didn't really get a good look at this, and I don't really want to." but with the lamplight they can see clearer what's going on, and these bubbles are sort of gelatinous, and they look inside, and there underneath the skin of the bubble is a skank all curled up and completely naked. And Archie says, are they asleep? And Easton wonders, it looks like they're new. Kane takes his sword and he gently pokes one of the rubbery skins of these gelatinous bubbles, and it gives slightly, but it doesn't pierce. Well, the idea of rubber wouldn't be around in this world, and neither would the idea of elastic, but the skin is not rigid and it goes inward. And Kane, not being the brightest, decides to give the point of his sword a jab, and he pierces the sword through this rubbery skin. Well, nothing really happens until he pulls his sword out, and a very sort of clear greenish goo splurts out from the wound. Luckily it doesn't hit anybody, but the smell is awful, and the creature inside starts to wriggle and squirm as its fluid in the bubble starts to leak outward. That's enough to give everybody the heebie-jeebies, and they all move forward further into the tunnel, leaving this place behind. And we shall catch up more with their adventures next time, so I will see you then.